To this class of Public Administration, dear MA 4th semester students of Political Science Department of DAV Postgraduate College, Varanasi. Today we will study Generalist and Specialist debate in administration. Generalists and specialists are primarily two broad functional categories in the government. Both the categories play a very important role in rendering advice to the political executives, in policy making and in implementation of policies. The present day administration has become very specialized and thus it requires different types of personnel with necessary skills, knowledge and qualities to discharge its functions. The controversy between these two groups of functionaries, both of whom are necessary for the modern organization of administration, is quite old, but still is one of the fiercely fought out issues in public administration. As early as in 1958, James Fessler had recorded a revival of the controversy in England. After a decade, that was in 1968, the Fulton Report on Civil Services opened this issue afresh and provoked a debate again. In India, following the tradition of the Indian civil service from the days of the British, the supremacy of the generalists was more or less accepted initially and not very seriously challenged. The Indian Administrative Service, the successor of Indian Civil Service of the British times, gained its importance with its personnel generally occupying the top posts both in the central and the state government services, besides the position of heads of various departments. But this predominance of generalists in administration led to a lot of discontent which gained momentum since the 1970s. The young men and women, of course, belonging to the civil service were considered in British times the empire's guardian in the remotest corner that time. They were trained to be autocrats and to keep up the dignity of their prestigious positions. It is felt that things have changed now. There are a lot of developmental activities. So, the idea that only managerial approach is required for administration must be revised, must be rethought, and technocrats, scientists, engineers, technicians, doctors, educationists must be included in the administration as the heads of different departments and different organizations within the government. People like S.S. Bhatnagar, H.A. Bhabha are often considered as examples for this. The specialist versus generalist controversy has now reached new heights due to competition for senior and top management posts in the public sector enterprises. And a new dimension has been added to this problem since the publication of the Administrative Reforms Commission's report in the recent past. The report clearly states that Indian Administrative Service shall not be a generalist service but shall have a purely functional role, that is of revenue administration. If this recommendation is accepted, there will be only specialists and no generalists. The adherents of generalist class of administrators strongly feel that such a theory is not sustainable in administration of a country like India. Disparities in pay scales and status have become a very important question for specialists and has caused a lot of heartburning among specialists. So let us try to understand the debate. Who is a generalist? A generalist is primarily known for broad vision and capacity for leadership. It is taken that a generalist administrator is concerned with all types of administrative process indicated by the word POSDCORB, post-sticker, that we have studied since BA, which includes planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting and budgeting. These are the primary works of an administrator, and a generalist can do these works much better than anyone else. In a negative sense, a generalist is actually a person who is not an expert or a scientist or a specialist of any issue or any topic, any theme. In a positive sense, the notion of a generalist is applicable to a person who is called a professional administrator. So, what are the strengths of generalists? Generalists possess imagination, drive, initiative, enterprise for quick decisions. As such, generalists alone can advise the minister, who is most often a layman, on the political aspects of a plan, the technical aspects of which have already been taken care of at comparatively lower levels by specialists. On the other hand, an expert or a technocrat would have very myopic vision and stereotyped mentality. Hence, this specialized knowledge may prove as a liability rather than an asset. This specialized knowledge may rob him of the proper perspective while envisaging the plan. In the words of R.G.S. Brown, a more demanding role for general administration is that of a mediator. The task of a mediator is to link the specialist to the rest of the system by discovering what the limits are and trying to persuade him to work the specialist to within them. The good mediator can talk several languages simultaneously and is not a taskmaster in which professional civil servants will easily feel at home. A generalist's approach, even if it is portrayed as a layman's approach, is an asset to the administration because it enables him to express proposals and decisions in a way which is easily carried out by the lower administrative machinery. A generalist clears the mess created by the ministers, the legislators, the experts, and quells the mob fury which may ensue due to such a mess and prove detrimental to the country. Thus, far from suffering from inflated ego, they serve the community in the true sense. A politician makes promises to the people, but after his victory in the elections, he does exactly the opposite, which often leads to agitation. The generalist bears the brunt of all the agitation that politicians make happen in the country, in the society. A technocrat would not be perfect to fit into the situation. It is contended that a generalist is comparatively more suited for the secretariat or departmental posts in the states and at the center, as he has to play the role of an advisor to the elected government. An advisor must be acquainted with the whole spread of the problem before he renders advice to the government on important policy matters. In the words of Siva Raman, unless the advisor has the experience and the knowledge of the field at the grassroots and at the same time has a broad grasp of administration as a whole in the state, his advice is valueless. It is emphasized that there are many specialist fields in the state where the advisor knows only his field of specialization and none others. The generalist, comprehending the interplay and political forces in the various parts of the state, having varied experience in generalist field of work in the state, serves as a better advisor than a specialist in the state. It is stated by the protagonist of the Generalists that an all-India cadre approach alone suits our federal structure of India. A federal structure was adopted keeping in view the welfare of the people. The states generally resented that central policies ignored the local difficulties and problems and not attend to area disparities. A generalist who is supposed to work in any part of the country possesses detailed knowledge of the field. Hence, he will be able to cater to the needs of masses in different parts of the country more properly. In a paper conference at IIPA, it was stated, another justification for predominance in higher administrative position of services primarily recruited for the general administration is the facility which the system seems to provide for contact with the grassroots administration. However, it is admitted that in certain fields, specialists may prove better as advisors because of their expertise and specialized knowledge. Such fields are generally limited, and specialists in these fields have already been given due recognition. The generalists alone are considered by many to be competent to hold management positions and to suit to the democratic setup of India, since they are open to convictions. The specialist, it is considered, will be less cooperative and will have the tendency to assert if he suffers from inflated ego of expertise he is equipped with. Let's turn to the strengths of the specialists. It is thought that appointing generalists as secretary of a government department concerned with technical subjects to assist a minister who himself is a layman is like the blind leading the blind for assistance. It looks anomalous that the minister for irrigation and power himself is advised by a secretary who is a layman, a generalist, while technologists equipped with specialized knowledge of the subject plays second fiddle. It is apt to affect adversely working of the department. It is wrong to presume that a generalist has monopoly of good sense and common sense and can alone evaluate and coordinate plans and projects and understand the economic political implications. This is a kind of myth that has promoted generalists in administration. An appraisal of the report of UPSC between 1960-65 clearly has revealed that the number of first class graduates recruited to IAS was only 40% of the total. During the same period, the first class graduates joined in more number in the other technical government departments was twice high. This reflects that IAS do not necessarily have higher mental caliber than the technocrats. It is further asserted that public sector enterprises headed by generalists have become breeding centers of gross mismanagement. It has resulted in heavy losses and consequently a big drain on the national exchequer. On the other hand, technocrats like Dr. Bhabha have proved to be good administrators with great acumen. Dr. Bhabha was responsible for putting the Atomic Energy Commission on its feet and building up an organization, and we are all proud of. The critics do not accept the version that generalists alone can look to financial and political aspects of problems. The political aspect of a problem is not the concern of the administrative leadership. It is to fall in the domain of political leadership. The ministers who will never like the administrative heads to poke their noses as they alone are responsible to the masses and accountable to the high commons of the party. The financial aspects can be looked into better by a financial expert rather than a layman whose only claim to expertise is inflated ego. It is pointed out that due to emergence of concept of welfare state, the role of administrator has undergone a change. He is no longer concerned simply with the maintenance of law and order and supervising those working under him. He is to perform welfare functions on the behalf of the government. As such, he has to manage the economic life of the country as well. And this has resulted in inflating his superiority complex and adding to his arrogance. Hence, he stands alienated from people. Thus, the gap between the people and the government, which is a relic of the alien's rule, is yearning too wide to be embraced. Fulton Committee, in its report, held a similar view when they opined that to meet the increasing demands of the people in the modern state, civil services must be far-sighted and make use of their accumulated knowledge, experience, and must be able to take initiative in analyzing the needs of the people, needs of the future, and meeting people adequately. Criticizing the prevalent generalist concept, the committee said the generalist concept has most damaging consequences. It cannot make for the efficient dispatch of public business when key men rarely stay in one job longer than 2 or 3 years before being moved to some other post. The generalist calls is obsolete at all levels and in all parts of the service. The committee recommended that a wide and more important role must be opened up for the specialists trained and equipped for it. The adherents of the cult of specialists contain that a specialist who trains himself to deal with specialization in depth has more knowledge in the art of analysis and synthesis and should not be relegated to the position of comparative inferiority in policy making hierarchy. A specialist is an advisor to a lay politician may prove better. He may not be suppliant to and a mere yesman as is the case with a generalist. On account of his expertise and professional training, he may more easily succeed in convincing the political boss, and thus a correct line of action may be adopted. The Administrative Reforms Commission appointed by the Government of India praised the problem of generalists and specialists in its report on personnel administration. It made the following observations. A rational system of filling policy advice positions with men possessing required qualifications and competence needs to be devised. This will mean a fuller use of different services for secretariat work. Second, senior management posts may be selected from all relevant sources, both generalists and specialists. A rational pay structure should be adopted so as to reflect actual responsibilities borne in each job. In order to tone up morale throughout the personnel system, much greater scope than now exists need to be created for talent in the lower ranks to move up to higher positions in the civil service on the basis of competence and performance. The Commission has broadly classified the higher services into two categories: posts in the field and posts at headquarters. Posts in the field should be occupied by functional services, which comprises not only of technical services equipped with pre-entry vocational education like engineering services, but also those which specialize after entry in a particular area of administration, such as accounts and income tax. The Commission recommended that a functional field pertaining to the land revenue administration, exercise of magisterial functions, regulatory work in states in the fields other than those looked after by the functional services recently created related to functions, specific functions should be filled in by professionals like engineers, scientists, doctors. The Commission went to the extent of suggesting that preference for generalists should give place to a preference for those who have acquired competence in the concerned field. In its report on March 2002, the Constitutional Review Committee also opined above a certain label, say this Joint Secretary level, all posts should be open for recruitment from a wide variety of sources, including the open market. We would specialize some generalists and generalize some specialists through proper career management which has to be freed from day-to-day political manipulation and influences peddling. The Commission was also of the view that specialists should not be required to play second fiddle to the generalist at the top. The need of the hour is cooperation between the generalists and specialists who are working in the administration. If cooperation is achieved, it will prove much more fruitful and productive. It is better that it is based on mutual respect, profound regard for each other, rather than a sense of superiority or inferiority. Mutual respect, reciprocity is possible if proper status is conferred on the hitherto neglected technical man and does not create more irritants by resorting to agitation. So this is all about generalist and specialist controversy in India, and with this we end the course of public administration of MA 4th semester. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay well.